Okay. So, welcome to the Connect and Access monthly webinar, where our guest speaker today is the Santa Clara County Office of Ed Innovations Collaborative. We're excited about you joining us today, and we will drop a link in the chat with a link to the resources for this today's presentation. And just a reminder, today's session is being recorded. We want to start off with simple introductions today. My name is Shara Perry, and I'm the Assistant Director for the California Collaborative for Impactful Pathways here at Santa Clara County Office of Ed. And I would like to pass the mic to Lori.
Right, I'm a coordinator with Open Access out of the Placer County Office of Education and Placer County SELPA, and I'll pass it to Leah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leah Padilla. I'm the other coordinator on the Open Access project. And I'll pass it to Sandia.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandhya Lopez. I am working closely with Shara on her CSIP project, and I'm the director of the Innovations Collaborative of the SCCOE, Santa Clara County Office of Education.
All right, thank you.
And just a couple quick reminders. At Open Access, we are committed to the principles of universal design for learning. So you'll notice just a few things that we do throughout our presentations. Those simple backgrounds with high contrast text. We also dropped the tiny URL into the chat so you have access to the slides. And that QR code will also take you to the slide deck. And then let us know if you have any feedback, or you can unmute, put things in chat. So thank you for being here today. And then just a little bit about Open Access. We are a special education resource lead, and what makes our project unique is that we focus on universal design for learning, assistive technology, and augmentative alternative communication. So we say it's where those three collide and where learning and participation is for everyone. So linked here is our website and also our one-pager if you want to learn more about Open Access.
And now we will transition to the Innovations Collaborative presentation to share with you today. So, Sandia, the mic is all yours.
Thank you. I'm just really honored and excited to be able to share the amazing things that our department, all of the resources and the work that our department does. But I always like to start with our statement of purpose, just to give everyone a sense. If you're not familiar with the Innovations Collaborative, where we ground our work and how we ground our work. The Innovations Collaborative of SCCOE promotes a culture that values all children by strengthening, sustaining, and ensuring inclusive practices. We believe every individual, regardless of abilities and disabilities, has a right to full access to quality, inclusive learning and community environments. Our community embraces diversity, supports lifelong quality inclusion, and equitable engagement for all. Next slide. So before I jump into some of the resources that I'm very, very grateful to share with you all, these are just some links and some QR codes to stay in touch. Some of the great work that we're doing. I'll just quickly share. I'm going to get into kind of two arms of our program. One is the warm line, which I'll go into depth a little bit later. But a big part of our work is professional learning, coaching, and just support, caregiver support. And so we have a menu of services that I'll also share a little bit later of the different training that we provide. Again, training is around inclusive practices, ability awareness, and coaching follows that as well. But these are also just some amazing tools that we've developed within our department that very, very passionate folks on my team have decided, and we need to pull this together. So the first thing there is our Art of Innovations toolkit. It's the archive of all of the toolkits created by one of our training specialists. She loves doing this. She has a great time kind of having a monthly theme, and we'll link curated or articles, resources, things she's also put together and designed to support educators and again also caregivers, really anybody working and taking care of children between the ages of 0 and 24. So that's that first link there. The second link is to our podcast. Nupur Sethi is in charge of that. She had a vision to share with everyone in the trenches the what the journey of inclusion really looks like, and sometimes we see that clean, the videos that are polished, here's the outcome, but sometimes we oftentimes don't hear what that actual journey is like. So she has taken time and met with different folks, created this podcast to really talk about that journey. So she's in her podcast has worked with principals, co-teaching teams, not children, excuse me, students with disabilities who are now adults, and parents. And so it's just a great listen in the ride, the ride to work in the morning. And then the last there is just our archive of our newsletter that we send out every month. Next slide. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time today talking about three things: our Waste to Equity Playbook, our Down Syndrome Toolkit that we've recently created, and our what our warm line provides. So I'll start with our Waste to Equity Playbook. Next slide. Thank you. So this is this playbook is a little, I don't want to call it outdated. It's still very relevant and used across the state. But I'll just give you a little history on how it came to be. Under the California statewide system of support, the Waste to Equity Playbook is the work of the California Equity Performance and Improvement Program, also known as CPIP, of the Inclusion Collaborative. We were called Inclusion Collaborative at the Santa Clara County Office of Education. The 2-year, $2.5 million CPIP grant was authorized back in 2018 by Assembly Bill 99, and the idea was to support and build capacity within county offices. Um, County offices, excuse me, LEAs and schools to promote equity for disadvantaged, underserved student populations in California schools. So from this funding, the SCCOE, or our department within the SCCOE, established the California One Highway to Success for All, or CA1. One of the two, we at that time we were one of the two state equity leads, and through that work we developed this Waste to Equity Playbook, which is a guidebook for supporting hands-on equity work at the school, LEA, and COE levels, with particular focus on 3 student groups at the time: students, African American students, students who are English learners, and students with disabilities. There is a thanks Shara, she's putting all the chats or all the links in the chat. So next slide. After creating and sharing the tools with the districts at conferences, that initial playbook, we heard the need to really create, to go deeper with specific groups. The playbook itself has a framework. It has a kind of like a where to start. I'll dig into how you can navigate the playbook. But we found that, can you go a little bit deeper, right? Can you share a little bit more on how we might be able to support a specific population, or how to support a specific age group within that population, really looking at intersectionality. And so we spent a couple of years designing enhancements to that playbook. And so these are the 4 enhancements that were developed for African American learners, early childhood education learners, students with disabilities, and English learners. Next slide. Okay, so the Waste to Equity Playbook, again, like I mentioned, was birthed through the California Equity Performance, or the CPIP grant. And the purpose of the grant was there are 4 really important things: ensure comparable high academic achievement and other positive outcomes for all students on all achievement indicators, ensure equitable access to educational services and inclusion for all students, ensure equitable treatment for all students, and that was 3. Now that the grant funds have ended, the SCCOE continues to support the work of the Waste to Equity Playbook. It's still being utilized, it's still being shared, it's still being presented on. And so I'll just read through these bullets. The challenge that was identified is that equity is the public education objective for the 21st century. And the way to go about, to go about, I don't want to say dealing with this challenge, but working through this challenge, is to start the work by understanding the equity challenges for the most underserved students in the public education system. And we really focused on the idea around targeted universalism, which is when we focus on our equity efforts on the student groups who have been most marginalized, all students will benefit from this. Next slide. And so just some acknowledgments, a little shout out to the folks that helped us design the initial Waste to Equity playbook. I won't read all these out, but they're there for you. These are all the folks that took part and took a part in creating the playbook and actually implementing it and giving us data on how they've seen their data move. And also a big shout out to Shara and her team, CSIP grant, the CSIP project continues to elevate the work of the Waste to Equity playbook, and really all of the resources that come out of the Innovations Collaborative are supported by CSIP. Okay, so next slide. I'm just going to kind of walk you through the guide or the playbook, excuse me. So again, back to kind of the history. Why do we do this? Looking at the California dashboard from 2018 to 2019, these are the 3 student groups that were identified to have the starkest disparities. I don't think anybody here is surprised by that. You've probably also seen the same data. And so these are the 3. This was a spotlight. We were really spotlighting these 3 groups. Next slide. And we really wanted to develop our definition of equity. What does equity mean? And we worked very closely with National Equity Project on this guidebook. And this is the definition that NEP shares around equity. Each student receives what they need when they need it to thrive social, emotionally, and academically. And so this is our definition. This is the definition that we use throughout the playbook and its enhancements. Next slide. We used 5 key frames to structure the Waste to Equity playbook, which take a systems change approach to understanding and taking action to advance equity in classrooms, equity in schools, districts, and communities. And the methods are based in continuous improvement strategies and MTSS, the MTSS framework. It is the structure of the Waste to Equity playbook is versatile and adaptable to various contexts. It's not a checklist. It's not a standardized one-size-fits-all strategy for addressing equity. It's a process, and as we all know, it's always a process, and you're kind of in a different place at any given time when you're thinking about equity. And so it's a process worthy of the time commitment necessary to carry out a district's vision, a site's vision, a teacher's vision on equity. It prioritizes collaboration and shared leadership across stakeholder groups by flattening traditional hierarchical leadership arrangements, and it humanizes data by rooting in the practice of honestly listening to, raising up, and grounding student and community experiences in the work to advance equity. Really promotes the idea that all statistical data are made of multidimensional human stories. And then it's, like I mentioned before, it centers targeted universalism with the focus on those 3 student groups that I mentioned. Universal goals can be met for all students by focusing on how to achieve equity for these specific groups within a particular context. I'll go into the different practices in another slide, but just kind of a brief overview. Using universal design for learning, we point to this a lot in the playbook. Puts this concept into concrete practice. So targeted universalism in its simplest definition alters the usual approach of universal strategies, and it actually um, changes that distinction among citizen status, such as universal healthcare. So we point to that quite a bit in the playbook. The idea is to achieve universal goals or improved health, whatever that looks like in the education system. And then it suggests that we use targeted strategies to reach universal goals. So that's that focus on targeted universalism. Okay, next slide. This is sorry, my graphics are not amazing, but this is a quick just a snapshot of the table of contents in the Waste Equity Playbook. Again, that original playbook. What you'll see in that original playbook is how to use the playbook, what the on-ramps are. This is how you can begin or continue your equity journey. And again, it's not a checklist. It looks like one, but it's not. It shouldn't be used as a checklist. It's really about just seeing where you might be and where you need to move at any given time. Equity approach with targeted focus on those 3 groups, and then there's this focus on CRP, culturally relevant pedagogy, and we also make the distinction between culturally relevant, culturally sustaining, social emotional learning, and then universal design for learning. Next slide. And so we take the systems approach here. Specific areas such as universal design for learning, social emotional learning, and culturally relevant pedagogy comprise about a quarter of the total sections in the playbook. These are what we believe and most believe are the universally targeted frameworks that can support not just students with disabilities, not just the students that have been spotlighted or spotlit in the playbook, but all students. Next slide. And so just digging a little deeper into those frameworks, these are the frameworks to disrupt those inequities, excuse me. The culturally relevant pedagogy section highlights culturally relevant practices and responsive teaching and culturally sustaining pedagogy as a practice of equity. Culturally relevant pedagogy is explained in this section. Barriers to its implementation are underlined and promising practices are presented in this section. The SEL section was written during COVID, so I want to make sure I share that. This is when schools were closed, children and their families sheltered in their homes. Distance learning was quickly developed, and many teachers and students experienced a rupture to the relationships that they had developed through those daily interactions over the past month. So those we still see that the lingering effects of that, and so there's still a lot of relevance to this section, although it was written during that time frame. Um, and so we really focus on what some promising practices around SEL, and then universal design for learning, of course, is defined by the Center for Applied Special Technology, CAST, as a research-based set of principles to guide the design of learning environments that are accessible and effective for all. Next slide. Actually, let me go back to that last one. I'm sorry. Sorry, I didn't want to go into the down into it. So just kind of, I feel like I didn't wrap up this portion of it. So the Ways to Equity playbook and enhancements can be found at the link that Shara put into the chat there. It's on our website. We do training around it. And just a quick example of how it's been used. A very big district within our county actually utilized it to create their own equity framework or to create their set of guidelines around equity. And this is a really, really big district serving a very, very mixed population of students. And they used that kind of where to start on ramps portion to guide their discussions. And many principals use this uh, the equity playbook to have staff discussions, staff meetings, reflections. Right, there's like reflection questions in each section. It's a really cool. It's a cool resource. Not necessarily a toolkit. There are resources and there are links to specific resources and research articles. But I would say if someone were to use this with their team or their staff, the reflection questions in each section is a great place to start. Okay, now I'm going to shift over to another tool, a free tool available to everyone. It's our Down syndrome toolkit, and if you go to the next slide, you'll see a link to that as well as a QR code. This was released very recently in October of 2024. It's a guide, inclusive education, a guide for supporting students with Down syndrome. Our former superintendent, Dr. Marianne Dewan, this was a vision of hers. She really wanted to create a toolkit of sorts to support the very unique identities of children and adults with Down syndrome. One thing we found in developing this resource, the professional experts who pull this together found that there actually really isn't a lot out there on supporting the academic needs of students with Down syndrome. And oftentimes, like when we write IEPs, I am a former ed specialist. When we write IEPs, some of the goals don't necessarily make sense, and the goals make sense match those of other students, perhaps within an SDC or an RSP class. But we know that our children, our students with Down syndrome, have a very amazing, very unique um, identity, and so this really focuses on throughout the years developmentally what are some promising practices and specifically with academics. Next slide. Just a recent statistic sharing the prevalence of Down syndrome. In the US, 1 in every 772 babies are born with Down syndrome. And then every year, approximately 5,100 babies are born with Down syndrome, making it the most prevalent chromosomal condition in the United States. And this is as of 2022. Next slide. So the purpose of this toolkit is to provide educators, school staff, and administrators with evidence-based strategies to support students with Down syndrome, to enable implementation of best practices for inclusive education, and to really develop an understanding of the unique learning profile and developmental needs of students with Down syndrome. And the vision of this toolkit was to ensure that every student with Down syndrome thrives in an inclusive, equitable learning community, that it promotes collaboration among educators, families, and support teams, and that it advocates for systemic changes, because that's what we need, systemic changes to enhance inclusivity across educational settings. Next slide. Just a quick overview of what's in the toolkit. It's not a big, huge document. It really, or a big, thick document. It really is just very user friendly. There's 3 sections there. We have an early intervention section, strategies for different grade level section, not a section, but the sectioned out for different grade levels, and then an educational implementation checklist. Next slide. So let's look at just really quickly. I'm kind of walking us through just an overview of what each of the sections contain. But this is pages. If you have it open for some reason, the pages 13 through 22 really provide those strategies for those very specific grade levels: preschool, elementary, middle, and high school. As students with Down syndrome grow, their developmental and educational needs evolve significantly across different age groups. This section here between the pages of 13 and 22 highlights tailored strategies to address the changing needs I just mentioned, ensuring consistent progress and inclusive learning at every stage of their academic journey. Next slide. And the educational implementation checklist is a comprehensive tool designed to guide educators, or again, anybody working with students with Down syndrome, in implementing inclusive practices for students with Down syndrome. So the focus obviously is really around inclusion. How do we use it? This specific portion of it, the educational implementation checklist, you can evaluate current classroom strategies and identify areas for improvement for students with Down syndrome. Use as a planning resource for designing lessons, accommodations, and support systems. And you can use it to collaborate with IEP teams to ensure alignment with individual goals on those IEPs. It's a very helpful checklist because it provides a very clear, actionable framework to foster inclusivity. It ensures consistent support for students' academic and social and behavioral needs, promotes collaboration, like I mentioned before, ideas around differentiated instruction and visual supports, and really places an emphasis again on inclusive environments. It also the idea behind this checklist is that it's really encouraging flexible response methods, oral presentations, assistive technology to accommodate diverse learning needs. And then another example that comes from this educational implementation checklist is using chunking and scaffolding to break down complex tasks into manageable steps. So those are just some of the little items that you'd find on the checklist to make sure that these are the best practices for students with Down syndrome. And so again, that's available on our website. It's also available on the slides, completely free. We have beautiful printed versions as well. So if you're interested in receiving like a stack of printed versions, just shoot us an email at Innovations Collaborative, and we'd be happy to ship some over to you. And last, next slide, I want to share our amazing resource that, again, Shara and CSIP are consistently promoting and uplifting. That's our warm line. Next slide. These are our flyers. They're linked here. Our warm line is staffed by, well, we had 3. We have 2 now. One just retired, but I'm bringing her back in some capacity. It's made up of 3 moms and former educators who also have children with disabilities. So they have navigated the system as a parent, they've navigated the system as an educator, and so have a very unique perspective to be able to support caregivers and to be able to support educators, paraeducator service providers. And so that's their audience, right? The people that the warm line supports are educators, caregivers, parents, support providers, and I'll share a little bit about what they do in just a moment. But just so you know, this support is available in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, and Mandarin. It's a phone call or an email that you would send to the warm line, and they typically take about 48 hours at most to respond to those requests. So let me tell you a little bit more about what the warm line does. And again, all completely free. Had I known about this when I was a teacher and principal, I would have probably saved many, many, many hours and lots of tears for myself. But just a quick kind of overview of what the warm line can provide in terms of support. E-packets of information. For example, if a parent calls and says, okay, my child has autism and I'm having a hard time finding a camp, summer camp program for them, or my child is having a difficult time. There's some speech concerns I'm seeing for my child. What can I do to just sort of help initiate that or help bring that out? And so the e-packet of information is literally that. It's just a packet of information with linked resources, and it's very individualized and tailored to the need of the caller. We also provide visual supports. What that looks like, and I'll show you some quick examples, is a tailored visual support. It could be a picture, it could be a schedule, it could be a visual reminder, something that could support the child and the family. Those are usually just printed, created, and sorry, created and emailed to the person. And we also have the capability to obviously print it, laminate it, and have it velcroed, all of that good stuff in case a printer is not available to the client. We create social stories, and again, tailored social stories, or maybe you just want a very general social story. We have a repository of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of social stories. We provide behavior supports. We do ASQ screening, so we can walk a parent through an ASQ screening, walk a provider through an ASQ screening. We offer triple P parenting and childcare referrals. Within that part is within our county. Everything else we can provide outside of our county. Next slide. This is just I won't go through this. I just wanted to link an example of an e-packet of information. As you can see, it's comprehensive. This one in particular is encouraging speech in young children. And somebody had called and said, how can I, what can I do at home? And so this is an e-packet that was created for that parent with some tips, some things they can do on a daily basis, and then links to different resources. And so we have these e-packets of information for very, very various things: adaptations, disability supports, visual supports, and the list goes on and on. So that should be linked there. If you have a copy of the slides, you would be able to access that link to that e-packet. Next slide. Okay, and again, not great visuals. I apologize. I didn't get too fancy with the way the slide looks, but just these are all linked here. So if you were to click on the slide, you'd see there's a hyperlink. This is just an example of some of the visual schedules that the Warm Line has made for folks. A lot of it is made through Boardmaker. Some of it we just have some pictures, some stock pictures that we have that we are allowed to use. We can help families create these done, first then folders or first then charts, and just visual schedules on how to complete a task. And so these are just some examples. And like I said, they're all linked here. So if you were to click on the pictures, you should be able to at least access 2 or 3 of those. Next slide. Oh yes, there you go. Those are directions on how you could create the visual schedule. Thank you, Shara. The next slide, choice boards. So one more, thank you. Again, I'm just going to show you some pictures of examples of things that the Warm Line can create. Again, totally free. Choice boards for the classroom, choice boards for home. An I want chart, very simple. You make it out of a folder, laminate it, some Velcro strips, right? So these are all things we already have that can be emailed or printed for folks. Next slide. Cards for regulation. These are linked here. These are, we offer training around sensory supports and regulation supports. And so we like to bring these into those trainings so that you can create different stations if you need to, or have something very specific for a very specific student. So calming strategy cards, sensory break type cards. Next slide. They've also pulled together just visual supports to help with toileting. So toilet training and washing hands. This is an example of what that might look like. Next slide. And those are linked there at the top. And then, we have someone on our team that just absolutely loves to write social stories. And if you know there is an art to writing a social story. It's scripted, right? It's very specific in how you write a social story. And it really does benefit more than just students that are on the autism spectrum, but particularly it does benefit students on the spectrum, students with autism, excuse me. So these are some social stories that we've linked here. This is just like a hundredth of what we have. We have so many that have been created. We've had folks call and say, I need a social story for, you see the one down there that says changing gender. There's someone on in my classroom or my child's classroom, it's transitioning and my child is having a hard time understanding it. Can you help create a social story so that they're using the right language? So really anything you could think of, we've probably already created a social story, and if we haven't, we will. So it's all free again. We just ask that you shoot us an email and let us know exactly what kind you need, and we can make it specific to the need. And we also can put pictures of the child in the story. We just need permission to be able to add those pictures. Next slide. And our Warmline staff is trained to be able to give an ASQ and then also help folks understand the results of an ASQ and then next steps after getting the results of an ASQ. Like now, okay, I see that there's a need around this. What should I do? And so our Warmline staff can support that, just really that continuation of support, right? So usually we have families that will call once and never again. And then we have families that call once a week or call once a month or email every few months. It ranges, but we often do have repeated callers or repeated emailers because they really rely on the support. So an ASQ is one of those things that we do. We can give it and help interpret the results of the ASQ. And then the last slide for the warm line is that we do offer, the warm line team has been trained on triple P parenting, so they're able to give that training to parents. So if there's any interest around that, it's 4 to 9 weeks of personalized parenting program. It can happen over Zoom. So it can be a virtual training just because it's very hard sometimes to get parents, in a in-person capacity. And this actually is available in English or Spanish. So we have a trainer who can do this parenting class in Spanish as well. So that is our warm line. It's a wonderful, fantastic resource and very responsive. They're so passionate about what they do. It's more than, I always say, it's more than a job because this is what they needed, when they were navigating the system. And so they're just a great team. So I would suggest if you just take that flyer that's linked at this slide up at the top there and just print those out, or if you need some printouts, we'd be happy to send them to you and hand them out to folks, hand them out to parents, because sometimes what they do is they just receive a phone call and a parent has just received a diagnosis for their child and they just need someone to talk to and navigate what those feelings are, and so that's also something that the Warmline team does. And then the next slide, I think, is yes. So the next slide is we do have a yearly, an annual Inclusion Collaborative State Conference, very generous sponsor from the CSIP project. And so this year it'll take place in October 20th through the 22nd. It will be in person here at the Santa Clara County Office of Education. We also have a virtual component. The pre-conference day will be a deep dive session, so longer sessions, 2 to 3 hour long sessions where there's really, really getting deep into the topics. And then day 2 and day 3 are kind of more of your traditional conference style. So we just put out our call for proposals, and I see that I did not link that. I apologize. I'll find that in a moment. We love presenters who are passionate about inclusion and any strategies around inclusion. And then our ticket sales will also be available in the next month or so. So we hope that you can participate either in person or virtually. And like I said, I'll put that RFP link on this slide as well, so that gets updated. All right, Shara, thank you so much. And thanks for letting me share about our amazing program. I hope that if anything, you'll call the warm line and get some support there because they truly are a gift to families and educators.
Thank you, Sandia. So nice for you to join us. I wanted to give participants an opportunity to ask questions about the conference or about any of the resources that Sandia has shared with us today. Do you have any questions?
Very quick question.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
thank you so much for the information. It was great. And I think you might have mentioned this. Just this isn't available just to LEAs or parents in Santa Clara, right? This is
Yeah, no, the warm line, if you're talking about the warm line
Yeah.
specifically, correct? Yeah, warm line is open. So all those like examples of resources that I shared, that is available to anybody that would call in. But like if there was a question around, okay, my child, we just moved, what would be, can you tell me a little bit about the districts that are, the districts in the area and what kind of training have they had around inclusion? Like those are the kinds of things we could only really support in our within our county. But all of
Okay.
this other stuff, like the triple P parenting,
Yeah.
all of the visual supports, those kinds of resources are available to anybody. Now, of course, if they're far from us, we would just probably send things digitally. We do have the ability to also ship things if need be. But yes, we want this to be widespread. It's a great service, and we want to make sure everybody has access to it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you.
And just to share, these are great things that you can print or provide to like new staff members as you onboard them, or even the little communication cards, the visuals, they're good for like administrators to wear on their lanyard when working with students. I use some of those resources to make a calm down kit for the administrators at my school district. So they're cool resources that are free that you can share with your staff. So just to let you know. I'm going to continue. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some resources that CCIP is working on this year. I'm going to share my screen again because I stopped. So, CCIP is a part of the statewide system of support. We are a special education resource lead, just like open access, um, supporting innovative practices, system improvement leads. We're all together. And so, CDE asked us to work on a toolkit to support California county offices and administrators with improving indicator 14. So we've shared a draft of the toolkit that you see right here with the rainbow with CDE. We're just awaiting their feedback. And we are arranging an hour and a half webinar. We have three, and this indicator 14 impacts high schools. So in the special education indicators, sort of like a Yelp rating that districts receive every year on how they're serving students with disabilities. There are 14 indicators. And indicator 14 is a 6-question survey that is shared with graduated seniors 1 year after they graduate from high school. As a state, California is not doing well on this indicator. This indicator serves as a data point to show how school systems have provided education, training, and set students up with disabilities for success after they leave our school districts. So any student that exits a post-secondary program or graduates 1 year after they complete that program or they'll receive their high school diploma. They'll receive a survey or someone will call them and they will ask them these questions. This information is then entered into CalPads and submitted to the state and submit it and share it with the Department of Ed. And this is how systems get feedback on the programs that they offer. Are they setting our students up for success? Because we do not want students with disabilities just sitting at home. We want them to transition to some type of supported employment, trade school, college, work, something to make sure that they live a meaningful, productive life. So we have a toolkit. Within this toolkit, it takes districts through looking at your current practices, looking at your data. We have tools for supporting them with communicating with families. We have some flyers that are curated. We have postcards that are curated. We have emails that are curated. And the cool thing is, we are currently right now having them translated into Spanish, Vietnamese, and Mandarin. So districts won't even have to deal with that. It will all be done for them. And so we will be sharing this with districts. Cool flyers that were done on Canva that districts can or LEAs can just go in, add their logo, add their contact information, post on their website. So we're excited about this work. We're excited about improving post-secondary opportunities for students with disabilities. And we're excited to share this resource with districts across the state. And so the registration link has not been added. but the flyer is done. And as soon as the registration link is added, it'll be pushed out to open access and all of the grantees across the state and posted on our websites, the Santa Clara County website, to share with participants. Okay. And just so you know, CCIP and Open Access will be working together next year. CCE has and CDE have asked us to collaborate on some universal design for learning, professional learning for secondary schools and CTE educators. As you know, we have our new diploma option for students with disabilities, the alternate pathway to a diploma. So we want to partner with secondary educators and CTE teachers to make sure that when they are planning their lessons, that they are including multiple means of engagement for our babies with disabilities. Just all our babies, but our teenagers with disabilities. So we're excited about this partnership, and this has the registration link and a link to the flyer. And I will drop that in the chat in just a second. Also, I've added a few other resources to this presentation. Our county office is having an EdTech Innovation Conference. This is a free event. It'll occur here at our office. I've added the link to that, and the registration link is also included in the presentation if you're interested. Really cool AI-generated flyer. And CDE, in partnership with CCEE, the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence, will be hosting a virtual conference in November. This conference will include all of the state system of support providers. So we all will be participating in this virtual conference this one day, and the sessions, I'm thinking, will be recorded, and districts and LEAs and county offices will have access to these resources. We're all coming together to provide professional learning across the state of California. So there's a video included in this slide and a link to sign up if you would like to receive information. So we're excited about this wonderful opportunity. Again, we want to thank you for joining us today. Lori and Leah had to go attend a different meeting today. They were double booked. We've been sharing these meetings as much as we can this year, and we're so excited. And we're in the process of planning how we're going to work together next year as well. As the lead for CCIP, we also are partnering with LACO Embrace Abilities and some other grantees to offer some trainings across the state. So stay tuned. More things will be coming up, and you will be receiving emails. It'll be on social media, and we will be pushing things out